Nothing like the truth setting off a petulant child. U.S. Senator Raphael Warnock of Georgia, also pastor of Ebenezer Baptist Church, appeared on Meet the Press, and he talked about where we stand in the society. He talked about the issue of faith. Here's what he said.
Senator, let me ask you about something else that you said in your speech. You said, my faith is not a weapon. My faith is a bridge. You also say, quote, Trumpism is a plague on the American conscience. How do you square those two ideas for people?
Yeah, as I point out, I think over the last several years, over the last 50 years and over the last year, we have seen a deepening divide between what people need from their government and what government is delivering. There's a kind of corruption, legalized bribery that attends our politics. You see it in the frustrating fight to get basic health care for ordinary citizens. Surely the wealthiest nation on the planet can afford to provide basic health care to its citizens. We suffer not from a poverty of resources, but a poverty of moral imagination. And I do think that Donald Trump, if he's better at something than anybody else, is dividing us. And I think it is a distraction. And while we are distracted and divided, we have literally witnessed the largest transfer of wealth in American history from the bottom to the top. And people are fighting. They're seeing that their costs for health care are doubling while Congress engages in everyday political games. They're seeing their utility costs go up, their grocery costs go up. And meanwhile, the president is saying that he would rate this economy an A+++. The question for me is, who is he talking about? Clearly his friends, the well-connected, the wealthy, certainly not the people that I see every day in Georgia.
Ooh, Lord, that ticked off a little petulant child, the fake Christian. This is what the idiot posted on his Truth Social. Raphael Warnock was on Meet the Press, Meet the Fake Press with a one-sided and very biased Christian Welker as the hostess. Warnock spent the entire show using religion to try and divide the country. If a Republican, in particular me, made those statements, it would be front page news. Actually, you mean 2 Corinthians? He ended by saying that he was going to his church to preach now. Well, I think that's fine. I do say, whatever happened to separation of church and state? That would be the first thing they would use against us, but actually it's something that never much bothered me. Yeah, because you don't go to church. That don't bother you. Anyway, Warnock is a lightweight whose wife correctly states that he tried to run her over with the car. Trust me, your first wife accused you of raping her. Oh, I guess we forgot. Fortunately, she was able to get out of the way and only almost lost her foot. Yeah, your first wife died and you buried her at your golf course. Warnock is a bad guy. NBC News, which is second only to ABC fake news for being the worst, should be ashamed of themselves in allowing garbage interviews with untalented and uncaring people to take place. Well, he beat the person you endorsed. The public airways, which these networks are using at no charge, should not be allowed to get away with this any longer. Oh, you hate the fact that they let people say what they feel that hurts your little feelings. They should be properly licensed and pay significant amounts of money for using this very valuable public space. Thank you for your attention to this matter, MAGA. Ain't that something? Well, Warnock responded to the little punk child.
So Donald Trump just attacked me on Truth Social, claiming that I'm using faith to divide people. He's got a lot of nerve. Remember, this is the same president who literally had peaceful protesters gassed and beaten so he could stand in front of a church holding a Bible up. He ought to read that Bible that he was holding up on that day. That Bible says that Jesus came to preach good news to the poor. He came to heal the sick. He never billed them for his services. He stood up for the weak, the marginalized, average, ordinary people. Mr. President, my faith is not a weapon, it's a bridge. and I invite you to Bible study. Maybe you can meet the Jesus I know. In the meantime, I'm going to keep fighting for the people.
Now, some of you may be asking, well, what is Trump talking about? Well, his FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, they've been using that as a bully pulpit to beat down companies. In fact, one of the reasons AT&T and others announced that they're ending DEI is because Brendan Carr, who is the chair of the FCC, he literally said, if you do not get rid of DEI, we're not approving any of your acquisitions or mergers. Yep. That's why they're doing it. This week, Carr went before the United States Senate for a hearing, and man, he got challenged big time by senators over a variety of issues. This is Andy Kim of New Jersey. This was pretty good.
So when you're talking about all power vesting in the president, I just want to read this a little more, because you're saying not just that it is an independent agency, but you're saying that Congress did not want these technical decisions to be made in a haphazard manner or based on misinformation or short-term political interests. You specifically said it placed the authority outside of the executive branch for a reason. So you were not just stating what was the law at the time. You were stating the benefit that comes with the independence. So I guess I'm just trying to get a sense from you. If you don't think that the FCC is independent, then is President Trump your boss?
President Trump has designated me as chairman of the FCC. I think it comes as no surprise that I'm aligned with President Trump on policy. I think that's why he designated me as chairman. But ultimately,
do you consider him your boss?
Ultimately, well, President Trump designated me as chairman. I can be fired by the president. The president is the head of the executive branch. The decisions of the commission.
So he's your boss.
Look, the decisions of the commission are going to be based on a vote of the three of us right here. So there are some things that are different about that. And our decisions are going to be based on the facts and the law and the record.
You swore an oath when you came into your job, right? Does the oath have the word president in it?
Senator, again, I'm not tracking this line. What I'm saying is every decision.
Do you remember the oath that you took?
Yeah.
You swear an oath to protect what?
Sir, every single decision.
What is it that you're protecting?
In this job, we're based on the
Constitution of the United States. I'm just this is not
consistent
a
with
test
the Constitution.
Here. I'm just trying to get a sense of how you're trying to operate here.
No, we know he sucks up to Trump. Whatever Trump wants, he is going to do. And so what you have to understand is he is not going to challenge the right. He is not. He's not going to do it. And so what he also is going to do is going to use his power there to target, folks like Jimmy Kimmel as opposed to others. He's not going to challenge Fox News. What he's going to do, he's going to threaten companies like he did when it came to Jimmy Kimmel. And so when you see that particular post by Trump, what Trump has been doing is using the FCC to target companies, using the FCC to do his fighting, threatening these companies. Oh, I will snatch your license. Because here's what y'all got to understand. So let me explain to y'all the structure. So when you see NBC News, okay, NBC News is based in New York. Okay, Trump can't pull the license of NBC News. NBC News does not have a license, okay? The federal government approves licenses for individual TV stations, which means that you have owned and operated stations of NBC and ABC and CBS and Fox, okay? But most of the stations that carry their programming, they don't own. So when he says, I will pull the license of NBC, well, that can only impact the stations that own. So that's a sacred license, and nobody wants to lose their license, okay, because you're pretty much printing money. So this is how he is weaponizing the FCC to attack people. That's what he's doing. We have never seen a situation in American history where an occupant of the Oval Office is literally weaponizing the federal government to attack folks he don't agree with. That's what he's doing. It's all about vengeance. And this individual is leading that. Man, I saw something a few moments ago. There was a law firm that bent the knee to Trump. Well, so many of their top talent left the law firm. That firm is now having to merge with somebody else in order to survive. That's what happens when you bend the knee to Trump.
And it's interesting you say that. I think I've said it on the show before, but there have been a number of Facebook groups that I'm in as a lawyer, and there have been lawyers who have been excoriating the other lawyers from these firms who have bent the knee, saying if any part of the populace is best equipped to fight back and is duty-bound to fight back, it's us, right? It's us who file the documents in court. It's us who craft the arguments to stand up for everyday people and corporate entities alike. And it's us, particularly those of them in big law, who go to the Supreme Court, who argue in the most hallowed courts across the country. So when you have the president of the United States brazenly and unconstitutionally attacking people's ability to speak freely, to petition the government, to represent whomever they want, then it's duty bound on us as a part of our job and part of our duty to the public to stand up against that. And there's a huge rift in the group of lawyers across the United States on whether they should do that. Because what it comes down to is a balance sheet versus your values. Your balance sheet says, yeah, you don't want to lose that federal work, so you're going to capitulate and let yourself be punked by the president of the United States. And then you have other people that say, no, we can't do that because I wouldn't want to work with a law firm that wouldn't stand up for itself, let alone for me. So that's what happens when you bend the knee, and I'm sad that a lot of my colleagues at some of these firms have done that. But I'm also proud of those who have stepped away and who said, look, I cannot be party to this because if not us, then who? And I think that's what you're seeing. That's why that firm is having to merge. I saw a note about that this morning in something I read about those two firms merging, and I didn't realize that was the background. But I followed a lot of this with the big law firms at the beginning of his second term, and that was the line in the sand. Are you going to stand up or are you going to cower? And we see the consequences of those who cower, which is people leaving en masse.
One of the things that I think, when Cooney, that's important. I had someone was commenting in our chat, and they were like, "Ben, stop talking about Trump." And what I need people to understand is, we're not talking about Trump. We're talking about the actions of Trump, and the actions of Trump are severely hampering regular, ordinary people. And so if somebody who's watching right now, they need to understand that when they attack law firms, they're attacking law firms for hiring black lawyers. They're attacking law firms from actually recruiting at HBCUs. They're attacking black law firms from having fellowship and internship programs to bring in more black lawyers. The story this week showed how there's it was a massive drop of African Americans that have been admitted to Harvard, Yale law schools. Well, I keep telling people they want to defund Black America. This is all by design. They do not want African Americans at these top law schools. They do not want them in these law firms. This is what their game is. It's abundantly clear. It's before our very eyes. And so for the people who act like, oh, man, you're just making a big deal out of this. No, this is what they are doing. These people have to be stopped because if we just sit on the sidelines and accept it, they are going to completely destroy all of the institutions, the infrastructure in Black America. And I'm just going to keep yelling it over and over and over again. Academic, political, social, cultural, and economic. All of it.
Roland, they don't want to defund Black America. They're actively doing it, right? If they don't want to talk about President Trump, fine, let's talk about fascism. Fascism is a far-right authoritarian political ideology emphasizing extreme nationalism. That's what we're seeing right now. When you see the President of the United States control the FCC Chairman, Brendan Carr, who's under oath to protect the Constitution, but instead is doing the bidding of our president, that's a scary sight to see. And I'm so happy we have new senators in office like Senator Kim that are actually holding people like these feet to the fire, because this is utterly inappropriate. But when we see people that are starting to challenge these First Amendment rights, when you see people like President Trump say, hey, I don't like what Senator Warnock has to say, so let's pull him off the air. And not only let's pull him off the air, let's pull the network that he's talking on off the air. That's a scary sight. That reminds me of the time I've spent in communist and socialist countries where there is only 3 news channels that are saying what the president wants them to say, right? So we have to be really, really careful in the United States because we are fledging towards fascism every day. The FCC is one of the first posts of defense for that. If we don't have freedom of speech in this country, what do we have, Roland?
Michael.
Roland, people who say I'm tired of hearing about Trump obviously did not read Project 2025. It's clear that you don't know that Brendan Carr, who is the chair of the Federal Communications Commission, wrote the chapter in Project 2025 that dealt with reining in the Federal Communications Commission. All this shit was planned. This is what happens when you don't read. This is what happens when you don't watch Roland Martin Unfiltered. When you look at the piece from the New York Times from July 11th, 2025, the FCC is pressuring companies to drop DEI. It's succeeding too. They talk about how they pressured T-Mobile because T-Mobile, the FCC is reviewing a proposed merger the T-Mobile was involved in. And then the piece from Hollywood Reporter from December 2nd, 2025, AT&T says it will eliminate DEI amid FCC's push. This goes to what you were just talking about. Brendan Carr and the Federal Communications Commission are reining in corporations, forcing them to get rid of diversity, equity, and inclusion programs if they want their mergers and acquisitions confirmed. And this is devastating African Americans. This helps contribute to that 8.3% unemployment rate, a record, when just 2 years ago, you had record low unemployment for African Americans under Biden and Harris. This is the consequences of elections. This is what happens when you don't read and don't understand what's going on.
Yeah, but folks want to act like these things are not happening. I'm trying to tell y'all, they are happening. It's real. And we're going to keep calling it out because I'm telling you, they are going after every single thing. All right, y'all, gotta go.
This is your chance to own a piece of the creator economy. And with Start Engine, investing in Fanbase couldn't be easier. Just visit startengine.com/fanbase and click Get Equity. Opportunities like this don't stay open long, but your investment can help build a platform that pushes the future of social media forward.